Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another WeVideo webinar. My name is Ryan Kochevar, and I am one of the directors of customer success here at WeVideo. If you don't know me yet, I do many of these kinds of engagement opportunities for our WeVideo users to help you get the most out of your WeVideo for Schools subscription. Today, we're going to be talking about easy and quick ways to scaffold the media making experience for students in the classroom. And I'm going to be providing you with resources and ideas for designing, learning how to design and implement media projects in your classroom. We're going to go through a series of activities that we suggest in various levels of complexity to help you orient yourself to the ways that you might approach design when it comes to multimedia projects, the way you can approach implementing that and teaching it and using it in your instruction with your students, and then some actionable resources on how to scaffold that experience. We've got a ton to show you, and I'm really excited to get all of these resources into your hands today so that you can return to your classroom and begin using your subscription to WeVideo, both in your own work and in your own practice and with your students. So today's episode has been pre-recorded for you. We do have WeVideo staff members live in the chat, including myself. I will be combing through any questions and comments you might have. Today's session, we're going to try to make it interactive. So I'm going to be sharing some links from the slide deck that I have that you will be able to access throughout our session today. An interactive session with you all participating in the comments in the chat is so much more engaging and enriching for everybody who's going to be together today. So if you can, please let us know where you're viewing from, what you do in your day-to-day as an educator, and how maybe you have used WeVideo in the past, or how you might plan to use it, and maybe what you're excited about getting out of today's session. So just so you know, even though you may be viewing us live, if you have to head out early or you missed any of our webinar, this episode will be on demand for you right after this episode has run live today. You can come back and access this on our StreamYard page, or find us on YouTube. All of our content streams live to our YouTube channel, and I will go ahead and throw that YouTube channel into the chat and put it up here on screen today. YouTube.com/@WeVideo. We have a ton of content up there. Myself and my colleague Stu produce a ton of WeVideo content that gets posted and sent to that page. So if you are looking for more ways to engage with WeVideo, if you're looking for more media to consume on how to use our product, go over to our YouTube page and you can find our new web series, Quick Tips with WeVideo. You can access on-demand webinar content. You can see short video examples of different projects that my colleague Stu has designed for our assignment ideas library and other parts of the product, and just amazing ways to engage with WeVideo. If you have the need to get a subscription to WeVideo, if you're not yet a subscriber, you're just here interested in learning more about the product, you can always email us success@wevideo.com. Everything I am going to show you today is available and accessible to you by subscription to our WeVideo for Schools product. So please, if you are not yet a WeVideo for Schools subscriber, if you are using a free version of WeVideo, or if you are in a teacher account only, go ahead and email us success@wevideo.com and we will get your request to the right place. All right, so we're going to dive in. I've got about 30 to 40 minutes of content to share with you today. And then, I can hang out and answer any questions in the chat that may have come up during today's session. And we'll just get it going. So The session title today is Design and Implement Media Projects with WeVideo. And as I said, we're going to cover a ton of ways that you can begin thinking about designing and implementing these media projects in your classroom. In our through our presentation today, we're really going to start thinking about the ways that multimedia connects to what you're already doing in the classroom, and give you a few ideas of ways and pedagogies and theories and ways that it does fit with you across core content areas or other elective areas in which you might be thinking about using media making projects with your students. And so we really feel like video in general and what our software here at WeVideo facilitates is the connections to digital literacy, and specifically within the realm of digital literacy to the concept of media literacy, which here we define as the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. And where this really becomes starkly powerful to me is that our tool gives you and your students the ability to create media. And I think the production of media helps in all of these other areas that we try to cultivate media literacy within our students, right? The ability to access media and analyze it and evaluate it is done more palpably if students are made producers and creators of that media rather than just consumers. So we are all about facilitating activities and opportunities and ways in which you and your students can become creators and producers of that media rather than just consumers. And through that creation process, you're able to evaluate, analyze, and access new forms of communication, multimodal forms of communication, and to understand how things are communicated to various audiences through different media forms. And I think multimodality is something that we're going to focus primarily on today. Well, not focus primarily on, but it's something that will come into focus as we go through today's presentation, because video provides the opportunity for students to make media using different forms and different modes of communication. Right, we have the ability to use video clips, use images, use audio and sound effects in space to communicate messages to our audience. And when those modes are working together, our brains and the brains of others in our audience who we're speaking to are better able to interpret the communication that's coming from that media, because there's multiple different ways in which our brains can do that. So we hope that you'll see how that connects to the projects that we suggest and how we've designed sort of our own sequence for implementing these kinds of media projects in your classroom. I mentioned at the top of the show, we really, really want this session to be as interactive as possible. So, you know, as I asked you to kind of share with us where you might be viewing from, you know, what you're excited to learn about today, what you plan to do with WeVideo. I just, as we start to go through this and you see others in the chat, or you have others in your communities that you've been sort of bouncing ideas off from or looking to for inspiration about the kinds of projects that you have in mind, let's share that now. Let's take another minute to share that here and think about what media projects do you have in mind for your students this year. Are you coming in prepared with something and just looking for resources? Are you a blank slate, not really knowing the direction you're going to take this in? Just let us know, what kinds of media projects do you have in mind? This really cool image, excuse me, was a mural that was produced by users and a graphic artist that we had contracted for our booth at ISTE, and that made this really wonderful mural about all the ways our users described in which they and how they used WeVideo. So you can see some examples here: student presentations, video biographies, collaborating with others, ways to engage students, making PSAs, world languages, right? Utilizing video for vocabulary development or to teach new languages, students sharing about themselves, unit of inquiry, at the end of a longer form project, which we will talk about today as well, like the final product of a capstone experience, inquiry-based learning project. So what kinds of projects do you have in mind? Would love to see those come into the chat. And as you're going to the chat to kind of tell us and share with us what kind of media projects you have in mind, we're going to get started talking about scaffolding the media creation process. So here at WeVideo, we've discovered, over the years that really the best way to get started is simply to start and to keep it small and keep it simple. So WeVideo has a number of activities in our assignment ideas library that are designed and turnkey projects specifically to meet this goal of keeping it simple and starting small. One of the example projects we have here is our Introduce Yourself project, which can take a class period or two to complete, and it's a really great way right now as you might be rolling back into the classroom, or maybe you've been in the classroom for a few weeks, but you're still building that community. You may want to take advantage of our simple activities where students have the chance to participate in maybe a traditional icebreaker activity, but utilizing video to share who they are. And I will get into the assignment ideas library as we go through our session, but just so you can see an example of what this might look like, here is, again, my colleague Stu, who you'll probably see and hear about a lot today. Some of you may have been on his webinars or seen our quick tip show. He makes a lot of this content. He's the designer of our assignment ideas, a lot of them anyway, and he makes sample videos, exemplars or models of excellence for all of these that you can check out with both you and your students. And here's an example of starting small and keeping it simple. So again, he included, sorry for not having the sound up right away. The sound was turned down there, but what you saw there, Stu's example, was a number of different things about him that really shows the kind of person he is, what his hobbies are, what he enjoys, and with a nice and easy music track underneath it. So that project can be done in just a couple of days with a pre-designed template or not from a blank and scratch editor. You can produce really simple and easy projects, very much like the one that you saw in Stu's example. As we level up, so that would be something, right? Like as you get back into the classroom, as you're exploring designing multimedia projects with your students that you could easily implement in a class period or two. As you graduate up from that, there are more complex levels that you can get to in the first couple months that you're implementing media projects. And that an example of that we're showing from science and through our partners at KQED, which is a Northern California PBS media affiliate. They produce a project every year called the Youth Media Challenge, in which they have a scope and sequence of activities that students can complete and submit to them. Many of the students that participate in this use WeVideo to create their video footage, and the prompts are they change year to year, but they are always tied in somehow to core content disciplines. And you can find a few examples of these youth media challenges in our assignment ideas library. Now, I'm showing you this example because this might be a longer term project, right? This might not take 1 to 2 class periods to produce. This may be part of a capstone, like this video product could be part of a capstone activity or the final result of an inquiry-based activity. The example we have here called Feeding the Planet is featured from this student that was creating a science documentary about a problem that they felt like we were experiencing in our society. So they made this video as an example. And what I want to highlight, though, is in that first video example of Stu's, the really simple, the start small and simple, the students used media from the stock media library and didn't use a narration. They didn't, they used some transitions, but it was really simple, short, only a few pieces of stock media. And this student in this example does use stock media as well, and only uses stock media, but also uses music and a narration, a voiceover narration. So when I'm talking about complexity, I'm not really talking about the length of time that the project might take, because again, this video was tied into a larger form research project. It was something that was done over weeks, if not months, not just in a few days, right? But the complexity of the project, the video output itself, is only really one step up from what you saw in the previous example. In that previous example, again, it was a couple of clips from the stock media library with some text, some voice, some music. This one takes it to the next level and adds that voiceover track with music again, and images and text. So again, that multimodal experience, that creation of multiple forms of media, all in this video. So let's take a look at this.
On November 15th, 2022, our planet gained its 8th billionth citizen. As the population of Earth increases, so does the amount of food that we, as a society, need to keep us going. Without the ability to devote much new land to agriculture, farmers, both industrial and small scale, are using synthetic fertilizers to artificially increase crop yields. Unfortunately, synthetic fertilizers are among the major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. That means while they are helping us grow more food, these fertilizers are having a significant impact on the progression of global warming. Thankfully, there are solutions. We can maintain crop yields by using natural methods such as crop rotation to uphold nutrient cycling within the soil. Crop rotation is planned sequences of crops over time on the same field. Rotating crops provides productivity benefits by improving soil nutrient levels and breaking up crop pest cycles. Another environmentally conscious way of farming is to lower the amount of synthetic fertilizers used by supplementing them with endomycorrhizal fungi. This microscopic fungi forms a symbiotic relationship with the plant's roots, causing them to uptake nutrients better, therefore requiring less fertilizers. Although this action isn't fully getting rid of fertilizer-based nitrous oxide emissions, it can still help mitigate the disastrous effects of global warming.
All right, so in that example, as you could see, right, and we're not thinking about the project length or the what went into the actual creation of that piece of media in terms of the research that was required and all that, which honestly is impressive, right? And was fit into a larger academic project that these students were engaged with. But the video itself was really just that one step up in complexity from our previous example. Still used exclusively stock media from the WeVideo stock media library, had a music track playing in the background, had some text, and paired with the video clips and the images that were used and some transitions in there. But then a voiceover narration was added. And then that is the kind of idea of, as we scaffold and we gradually create more engaging videos, is the way that you can scaffold these media making experiences across a semester, across a unit, or across a whole year. So as we move on to our third example, we see a video that's going to be even more complex, right? Or a project that's going to be even more complex. And for this one, we've sort of showing an example from an argumentative writing unit. Again, borrowing some resources from our friends at KQED, the Northern California PBS media affiliate, talking about a project in which you're analyzing arguments. You're learning how to create a piece of media that helps you to share your arguments and advocate for a certain topic, right? So there were 3 parts to this assignment, and now this comes from my colleague Stu, again, who implemented a project like this in his classroom when he was teaching in San Francisco Unified School District. They used the Above the Noise PBS show, which is unfortunately no longer running, but they were able to get information about how to teach argument analysis. And then they were actually building and creating a pitch deck and a pitch video for an episode that they would produce as a mock sort of above the noise episode. And then they created that episode, which involved researching, writing, storyboarding, editing, and publishing. And a lot of the complexity involved in this video project has to do with the type of editing that was done, the creation of their own media, the uploading of that media content, the pairing of that with stock media images. The editing techniques get a little bit more and gradually more complex, right? So once you've sort of learned the different features of the product by starting small and starting simple, and you start adding those layers of complexity, you can sort of gradually increase the amount of editing that's happening, the type of editing that's happening, and the ultimate final product that is produced that gets more and more polished the more complex you go. I don't have time to get into all of the different components of this project, but please, I encourage you, go check out the KQED Above the Noise episodes. Stu's project plan you can access through these links. Check out all of the different components that went into this project that is aligned with an argumentative writing unit that will teach students how to analyze arguments, form arguments, deconstruct arguments, and things of that nature, and do it in a fun way by making a video. And in this case, it was mocking an episode of not mocking in a derogatory way, mocking as a mimicking, I should probably say, Above the Noise episode. So this is a really great example of sort of the top level of complexity that you could get to over the course of a few months, of a unit, of a full year of designing and implementing those media projects. You will see other links in this deck. Like, for example, this slide is sharing with you our student level 2 certification course. We have self-paced courses for students and teachers that can get you onboarded to our product on your own time, at your own pace, to learn those editing tips and tricks. A project like this would be a great chance to pair that with like our student level 2 course. Those earlier projects could be great to pair with our student level 1 course. You can access those at wevideo.com/certifications. Go ahead and put that in the chat as well. But go head over there, check out those programs, get your students certified, and pair them with activities such as this to do both things together. Leaning on us to help you teach the product, but really allowing you to be the facilitator of that connection to your academic content that you may already be doing inside of your classroom. All right, as we move on, we're going to start thinking about teaching video editing with WeVideo, right? So those are sort of examples of varying levels of complexity of different kinds of projects that you can do in terms of gradually increasing the kind of editing technique that's required and the polish on the product at the end. Starting simple and then moving and graduating to that, that longer form media project. So again, starting small and keeping it simple is the theme of this, is going to be one of the themes you hear throughout this episode, here throughout this webinar with me today. And again, it's really about teaching editing in a gradual and scaffolded way. And to do that, again, we have those student level 1 and level 2 certification courses, and you can teach some of these activities from our assignment ideas library through those certification programs. So learning the editing skills to complete community building or back to school activities is a really great way to get students acclimated to the editing environment. And these are 4 activities in the WeVideo assignment ideas library that you can access in order to do that. So again, just another plug for the certified educator and student courses. Head over to wevideo.com/certifications and get your hands on those programs. That's really a self-paced way to access the editing skills you're going to need to implement these projects in your classroom. So let's move on. So we're talking about media projects and implementing short form versus long form media projects. And as I mentioned at the top of this webinar, its connection to digital literacy. So when we're talking about creativity in the classroom, again, keeping it simple and starting small is the way to access and lower that barrier to access for students and you who might be doing something like this for the first time. So a really fun activity that's grounded in community building, very similar to that introduce yourself activity, or maybe the share your summer activity that we've been highlighting in the month of September, we have our Design Your Name activity. And this is a really fun and easy way to create a GIF of using our new text engine that was released this past January to create these cool visual designs that might represent your personality through your name. So really cool. There's a video up on our YouTube page. It's our Quick Tips episode 3 video, which you can get by heading over to our WeVideo YouTube channel that will explain in detail how to create this project. We also have videos, sample videos in the assignment ideas library to show you what this looks like, and tons of resources in that feature to help you learn and facilitate this activity with your students. Another great one to do for community building that's no more than a class period is our My Personality GIF. Each month we release creative challenges for you to use to engage your students. And this was our August creative challenge, but it's still a great activity, icebreaker activity. And instead of a video, as the Introduce Yourself project was, this is a GIF. So inside of WeVideo, you can create podcasts, videos, and GIFs. And this one in particular is a really fun and easy way, again, to introduce yourself, to allow your peers or students' peers to gain insight into your personality a little bit, what you enjoy, who you are, by creating a 4-quadrant GIF that utilizes both the stock media library and your own media to share a little bit about your personality. This was connected to a creative challenge. If you're looking for the other creative challenges or shorter form video projects, we do have a website page that will help you access all of those, and that's wevideo.com/creative challenges. So please head on over there and take a look at all of those fun challenges. Okay. The last project that we have here for you, oops, I'm sorry, let me just move the page here, is the assignment ideas library. The last thing I wanted to show you here, we inside of WeVideo, we do have our assignment ideas library that's going to get you access to all of these projects. So let me go ahead and show you that. So I jump inside here to WeVideo. I'm going to head over to my assignment ideas tab. I'm going to go ahead and filter, sort these from A to Z, so I have an easier time kind of focusing in on the projects that I was just sharing with you. So all of those projects that we shared in terms of the keep it small, keep it simple, community building activities that can be related to creativity, can be related to digital literacy, right? That production of media that we talked about can all be found here. These are pre-made assignments for you to assign to your students right away. So you can see we have the KQED Youth Media Challenges assignments in here. We also have the other ones that I was showing you, the Design Your Name. So here's that one. And if I click preview, I'm going to jump into this preview window. You saw this here. All the music playing here. Comes with that sample video. It's going to come with steps to complete the activity, tutorials to learn how to make the motion graphics, examples for inspiration, and then it will even come with a set media timeline. So if you select this and preview it, it's going to get your students started by helping you plug in different timeline tracks in the editor to help you start from somewhere. If you need that support, if you feel like your students are going to need a jumping off place to engage in these projects, utilizing the starting blocks templates that have already been built for you is a great way to help them with the media production process. And again, to scaffold that media making experience. So they can learn how the different editing techniques work through starting with an already populated timeline, learning how to find and replace media they want to use for their name, but then also evaluating how this piece of media was made, right? How did we use font and color? How did we use the audio? How did we use the different video tracks behind the transparent text to create this? So taking advantage of what we've already provided for you is a really great way to keep it small and keep it simple, to start small, excuse me, and keep it simple. It's a really, really great way to jump in and give students that chance to make media right away. So the rest of those projects that you'll be able to find in that assignment ideas library. My apologies, I ended my screen share. Let me get that back up for you here, back in the assignment ideas library. So if I go ahead and exit preview, I can close and then keep looking through my assignment ideas. And again, we've got tons of them in here, all connected to, most of them connected to core content areas. But those ones that we showed you, my personality GIF is here, the share your summer activity is here, and the introduce yourself. Because I have to sort it again. Okay. And the introduce yourself activity is also in here as well. So right here, introduce yourself. So again, you can just preview them. If you want to save the draft to your class to assign to your students, you can do that as well. I'm not going to be showing you a lot of how to set up your classes or assign those projects today. In the next 20 minutes, I want to make sure I give you as many resources as you might need to utilize this in your classroom. You can visit the WeVideo Academy at wevideo.com/academy and get access to all of these tutorial videos that will help you kind of learn the nuts and the bolts of the product, so that you can create your class, roster your students, and assign projects right away. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about scope and sequence. We kind of saw the various levels of complexity that are contained within the type of media project you can do. We saw that you can connect them to your core content areas. We've seen various examples of how to start small, how to keep it simple, how to connect it to digital and media literacy, how to use video projects to create community, and how to gradually release responsibility to the students for producing a very polished piece of media, right? Utilizing those scaffolds, building those skills as you go, making sure you're not putting a very complex project before a very simple project in order to build the confidence that you and your students will need to create media projects each and every day or week, depending on how often you're using WeVideo. So we're going to jump into something that can be a little bit more long form. And what we've provided for you here is a template for long-term or long-form media production. A lot of the projects that you saw in the examples that I've been sharing so far have been 1 to 2 day, maybe week-long projects that vary in levels of complexity. But if you're looking for a way to implement a longer form media project, we put together a timeline to help you orient yourself to the various milestones that you want to make sure you're hitting with your students in your classroom to get them to complete a capstone project, the final artifact of an inquiry-based learning or a project-based learning cycle. And this is really a really great way to do that. So as you see, it's laid out across 6 weeks, where you've got in week 1, we're introducing the project and we're exploring the core content connection. So is this a science project like that science documentary you saw was more of a long form media project, even though the video itself was not super complex? They more than likely went through a longer form media production cycle in which they had a product introduction. They were exploring its connections to the scientific concepts or the topics that the teacher was teaching. Along those lines, they're looking at research and scripting and developing a plan for the piece of media they were creating. They knew that the video was going to be the end result of this production or this project. And so what are the different steps that they needed to take to get there? Of course, research is involved. Of course, script writing is involved for that voiceover narration, and then planning for the media. What media are you going to use? Are we capturing our own media? Are we using media from the stock media library? What's all going to be produced in this piece of media? So you move through the timeline, and the following weeks from that sort of introducing the project and starting to plan it is really the media creation itself. Using these sort of middle week checkpoints of self-assessment and critique of the piece of media. Again, peer-to-peer sharing, peer-to-peer feedback opportunities to make sure that the process is, 1, scaffolded, but 2, being analyzed and assessed throughout, right? We don't want to only provide students feedback at the end of a project. We want to constantly be providing it just-in-time feedback to, one, assess where the student is and where they need to be, but also to let the student know where they are and maybe where they need to be, if that's not a part of your self-reflective opportunities in your classroom. So those kind of middle weeks, we're producing the media, we're creating the media, but we're also taking time to provide feedback, self-assessment and critique. Then once you've produced the initial media, once you've captured the media that you're going to use in your project, post-production happens with editing and refinement of that product, right? So you're bringing all your media into the timelines, you're adding your voiceover, you're adding audio, you're adding transitions, you're trimming clips, you're cutting, you're editing, and you're refining that final product. And in the last 2 weeks, you're helping to distribute the media, you're finalizing it, you're exporting it. Maybe you want to host an event to present the media as a virtual gallery walk or a showcase or a film festival. And then in the final week, you're reflecting, right? You're looking at final assessments, and you are analyzing the process and the learning that took place through that long form media production timeline. So on the right-hand side, we have a number of links. I've included this deck for you in the chat, so please use these links to access resources that we suggest you use if you're scaffolding your media making project in a long form way over the course of a few weeks. These resources will really help you to keep on track and help your students access the different parts of this production timeline. So we really feel like this long form media, as I was mentioning at the top of that slide, fits really well as a capstone experience, a final product, a final artifact of production through a project-based learning cycle or through an inquiry-based learning cycle or maker-centered education. Maker-centered learning is a great application for video because what it's really doing is allowing you to go through that cycle of inquiry and allow students to gain knowledge and skills, working for an extended period of time in one topic area, and producing an authentic and engaging and complex artifact that responds to a question or a problem or a challenge, right? So I come from the world of maker education. We used to do design challenges a lot. We used video sometimes. Mostly we made physical artifacts, but video is another great artifact to have in your instructional toolkit in order for students to complete the project-based learning cycle and have proof of their learning and evidence of the topic that they've been investigating over the course of 4 to 6 weeks or however long you engage in a PBL cycle. You don't have to be instructing in PBL to use the long form media production timeline. It just fits really well with that investigative approach in the classroom, starting from a phenomena, starting from a question, working towards answering that question and showcasing the answer or the learning in video. So just included here, the 7 elements of gold standard project-based learning design. This comes from PBL Works, right? And if you look at these 7 bucket areas, or these 7 elements, excuse me, you're gonna see a lot of what we mapped out on that long form media production timeline, right? What's the challenging problem or question? We're introducing that, we're investigating that, we're researching that at the beginning of the project. We're sustaining inquiry throughout this project. We're doing research, we're analyzing, we're evaluating, we're critiquing the work of ourselves and others. It's connected to authenticity, so it's grounded in the real world. It's not an out of context problem or issue. We are connecting it to our lives and the lives of others in our community. And so that it becomes personal and the interests are real and the issues are palpable in a student's life, so that it creates a more meaningful and engaging opportunity for students to do the research, to do the investigation, to create that artifact, to share what they've learned. Student voice and choice, right? Students are going to make choices throughout the media making process, everything from what they choose to research, how they choose to research it, what the depth of the investigation would be, to even those media making choices, right? What images am I using to communicate this? What sounds am I using to communicate this? What's my script going to be? What's my message to the audience going to be? And through that, their voice is heard in their own learning as they've been investigating and really putting together their piece of media to showcase what they've learned. Reflection, obviously embedded throughout the whole process. We want to offer reflective opportunities, not just at the end of something, but throughout something as well. Critique and revision, as I've mentioned, we're constantly iterating on our ideas and on our research. We're being challenged. We're looking for new avenues of thought, new ways of approaching an issue. And so putting those critique and revision portions in to the long-form media making process really maps well to the project-based learning cycles. And then the production of a public product, right? You're making something that is intended to be shared, an artifact that can be consumed by others, that has a point and purpose that goes beyond the classroom because it's tied to a real world issue that can be communicated by the students engaging in the design of the product. So that ties in as well to the concept of authentic assessments, right? Project-based learning, long-form media really has a great connection to authenticity, and the assessments that you're using, the performance tasks that you might be using in your instruction to provide another way of understanding a student's competency or demonstrations of mastery over content. This is a really great way to do that in a creative and engaging way. And we focus on the production of that public product because the Ron Berger's hierarchy of audience teaches us that projects in school are going to be much more motivating and much more engaging for students if there's an audience that they're going to be sharing their work with that goes beyond the realm of the teacher and even their peers and beyond something that's just fulfilling a requirement to them, right? I take a math test, I turned it into my teacher, I fulfilled a requirement, I've been assessed, end of story, right? I write an essay, I fulfilled a requirement, it goes to the teacher, I get assessed on it, I get a grade. A media project that's connected, even if it's simple and short, right? Even if it's something that isn't the level of complexity you might want out of a capstone project for a PBL cycle, if it's, you're only utilizing a few tracks of the editor, still provides the opportunities for you to authentically assess your students and practice working towards the top of this pyramid in our hierarchy of audience. And that's really to present your piece of work to people beyond the school, right? People in the community, but the people who are going to be capable of critiquing the work in a positive way, and that you understand that this is a piece of media that can be, or this is a message, or this is something that can be of service to the world, right? And that's where we want to capture the attention of others, but also the motivation of our students, because if they know that this is something that's going out to a larger audience, it is much more motivating to put everything that you feel like you want to put into that project, and it's not just a box checking activity. So we often start with something called the models of excellence with this, and so what I'm going to, for the last couple minutes here, I'm just going to provide some resources or tie in some of the resources we were presenting to you, or I was presenting to you in that opening slide with the timeline on it, and the ways you can kind of work through that PBL cycle. And one of the ways to do that is to start this off with the model of excellence. So if you know the end result is going to be a piece of media about a specific topic, you really want to present students with this model and begin, and this can be anything. This can be a physical artifact, this can be a digital artifact, it can be, using the models of excellence is not exclusive to long-form media production. It's a part of inquiry-based learning, project-based learning that really helps students frame an example in their mind of what is excellent about the thing you want them to do and how we might critique that to unpack and peel away the different elements that make this an excellent example of whatever it is that you're going to be putting in place, right? So doing a See, Think, Wonder activity, that might be already part of your instructional toolkit for other things. It's a really tried and true strategy to kind of tease out those pieces of information that you want students to get at from showing them this model of excellence. So, right, like, what do you notice about these things? What features make this a high quality example? And then you can start thinking about critiquing and deconstructing the message and the audience that this piece of media is trying to convey. And then wondering, right, what questions do you have? Even if it's about how the heck they did this in the first place. These are all really great moments to get that week 1, week 2 project timeline rolling, is to focus on teasing apart and breaking apart a model of excellence. And as we go through the project, again, we're critiquing, we're revising, we're reflecting as we go. So a big part of the long form media production process, as it kind of fits in with pedagogies like project-based or inquiry-based learning, is building the formative assessment as you go and building it out of the features or the components of what students have identified from that model of excellence. So we've provided you rubrics in the sample timeline that we gave that you can utilize to build your formative assessment, to really keep that reflection piece and that revision and inquiry and critique piece going throughout the process, rather than it just being the summative assessment at the end, where students are forming their own rubric with you as you work through this. And it's all based on something tangible that they've picked out from a model of excellence. And then peer feedback, again, as you go through this cycle, a really helpful thing as you're building the media, as you're doing the research for whatever it is, whatever core content you're attaching this to, right? You can use this tag feedback model and teach this in your classroom. Oftentimes, giving of feedback in the appropriate way or the constructive way needs to be directly taught and modeled for students. And so this is a really great way to do that. You can do this in small groups. You can do this as a whole class, where you're really allowing the one doing the critique, the student doing the critique, to tell them what they like about whatever is being presented, asking a question, and then giving positive advice or suggestions. We've included the rubric and this tag feedback model for you in our resources that we've been shared. And then as you're getting into the media making process, as you're reflecting, we're critiquing, we're building formative rubrics and models of excellence in those first few weeks, right? And we're giving feedback on where the project's going. And then once we get into the actual media making toolkit, storyboarding and script writing are hugely important as a part of this process. So we've included in our resources storyboarding templates and ideas for script writing to help in those early stages of the media production process really board out your ideas and the media you're going to use, what transitions you're using, are you using a voiceover narration? What are you doing? How are you telling your story? How are you taking the research that you've done about your topic or the sustained inquiry that you're doing? I've incorporated feedback into your topic. How are we now building the media content? So in weeks 3 or 4, as you start 2, 3, or 4, as you start storyboarding and script writing, you really have these different steps built out and scaffolded so that the creation process is laid out so that students can feel successful when they get to the editing portion of the video, which is what? 1 week. We've come here, we talked to you a lot about the different editing techniques, but really could be 2 weeks within this whole process. But the whole point of using media as that longer form production or that sort of capstone project at whatever complexity you're doing this at, right? Storyboarding and script writing, if you're using voiceover narration, is hugely important and should not be skipped. So we've provided you some resources for you there as well. Recording video, if you're out there capturing media, we've got tons of resources on the WeVideo YouTube channel. We often share, again, from our friends at KQED, video tips from one of their on-screen cast members for you to share with, for you to consume or for your students to access. It's a great way. There's some great tips in here on how to record video. And then to kind of sum up what we've been showing here today, this is really about infusing creativity into the classroom and thinking about how you're using WeVideo throughout the life of a project within your curriculum. So we've talked about short form media projects, those easy, low complexity, simple projects, community building projects, GIFs, webcam recordings, screencasting, really easy ways for students to access our product and for you to build media making opportunities into your curriculum that tie into those more complex video activities or those longer form media projects. So if you think about starting an inquiry-based or a project-based unit and you're needing to teach academic vocabulary, or you're thinking about how to provide more reflection opportunities, or how to do peer-to-peer feedback. If we're using the tag feedback, how might we also utilize and teach video skills alongside those early weeks in which we're not working necessarily on our longer form media project, but what we're doing is building the skills and utilizing the editor, or utilizing WeVideo in other ways to build those competencies towards that ultimate end goal of making the final artifact. So things like vocabulary gifts. We also have animated vocabulary cards as an activity in the WeVideo assignment ideas library, utilizing webcams for reflection, utilizing screencasting and drawing tools to visualize thinking, gamifying vocabulary. We have some assignments in the assignment ideas library that helps you do that as well. So thinking about not just using media as the end product, but using it throughout the project lifecycle is a really great way to do some of those simple activities while you're working towards that longer form media cycle. So some more examples from the mock above the noise unit that my colleagues Stu put together have been included in this deck for you as well to check those out. Here's a sample rubric that we were talking about, right? If you're building a formative assessment rubric and you're providing those critique and reflection opportunities, if you want a media project rubric for a summative assessment, we're providing that for you. All you have to do is you can make a copy of this, edit it, take it, use it in your own context, build it however you see fit for your students. But we're really looking to help you in all aspects of your media making journey to make it simple and easy, but also to provide you the information and the resources to connect this to your core content area, to align it to your standards, and then to assess on it as well. And having these rubrics, we know, can often help teachers tie together what they're already assessing in their core content areas, right? You have your standards that you're assessing on your core content. This rubric's going to help you kind of overlay those media production skills, or those editing skills, or those video production skills on top of your already existing core content assessment, and build it together. So last thing, when you're choosing a media project idea, we've got a ton of resources for that as well. But again, the questions that we're often asking folks to consider, what content and standards are you going to teach this year? Where's this going to be a fit for you, right? Where does it make the most logical sense for you to get started? Where does it make the most logical sense for you to build complexity into your video projects, to align it with something like inquiry-based learning? And then what projects do you already have planned in which the final assessment piece, or the capstone project, or whatever it is, can be strengthened, or it can be enhanced by turning it into a media piece that adds that layer of authentic assessment on top of it. So I encourage you to consider these questions before diving in, right? And absorbing all this information that we gave you today, but really using it as a jumping off point to plan those media projects with your students. Start small, keep it simple, move up varying levels of complexity, move into longer form timelines with video opportunities interspersed in that unit. And then how are you aligning it? Where does it fit? Where does it make sense? What projects can easily be transformed into a media project? We've got plenty of examples from the assignment ideas library, from KQED's Youth Media Challenges, and from PBL Works. We've also included a media project planner for you to access and use when you are planning. So in closing, there's a lot of different ways to implement media projects in the classroom. Again, the best way to start is to simply start and try one of our projects from the assignment ideas library. Try a really easy project that you've had in mind for a while that you haven't been really able to facilitate, and just get going in a small and simple way, and work your way up to those longer form media making opportunities. Well, that's all the time we have for today's webinar. I really, really appreciate you joining me. Again, I will hang out in the chat for a little bit after this is done running to answer any lingering questions you might have. We have a ton of resources out there for you. I'm just going to drop those links in one more time and let you know about the different ways to get access to this content. If you're looking for courses that you can take and badges that you can earn to become WeVideo certified, we've got our certification programs available to you at wevideo.com/certifications. Head over there, take a course, earn a badge, learn the platform at your own pace and on your own time. We also have our WeVideo creative challenges, which are great for quick and easy projects that you can complete by heading over to wevideo.com/creative-challenges. You can submit these monthly, and we will pick a winner, celebrate you on social media, send you some sweet swag to your classroom for you and your students. So wevideo.com/creative-challenges. A lot of our simple and easy ways to get started with WeVideo projects are creative challenges. So they're designed for 1 to 2 class periods. They're designed to be fun, creative, and just an experience that you can have with you and your students, and enter our contest for a chance to win. We also have a ton of content on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@wevideo. Go over there, subscribe, click that notification bell on the quick tips notification bell on the quick tips with WeVideo series. It's a new series that we've launched where we're putting out episodes every Tuesday, a little bit shorter form than these longer webinars to get ideas about, again, how to design and implement media projects, specific editing techniques you can use, and all the different ways you can take advantage of WeVideo at your school, in your classroom, or in your school district. Lastly, 2 more things for you. More webinars are available. Head over to wevideo.com/webinars. We've got a great one coming up on our new AI interactions tool next week. And then we're going to take a deep dive into advanced video editing techniques in a few weeks. So head on over there, sign up for those. We'll be posting October and November webinars soon. We've got some special events coming up with some special collaborators that you won't want to miss out on. So go over and sign up for more WeVideo webinar content. And lastly, if you're looking for how-to tutorial videos on everything and all things video editing, head over to our academy at wevideo.com/academy and watch how-to videos on the different aspects of our product. And with that, we're going to wrap up and say goodbye for now. I hope you enjoyed our webinar today. Thank you so much for registering, for viewing us from wherever you are viewing us from. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in a couple weeks. But until then, happy creating, everybody. Bye now.